Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome everyone. I am so excited today because my guest is just fascinating. I'm sure you will agree. Let me just tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Alison J. is an internationally recognized expert in holistic healing and energy medicine with over 2 decades of experience. Her unique approach, which I think is just awesome, integrates ancient wisdom with cutting-edge Western techniques, and she's going to explain some of that stuff. And she's also an author. And she just uses all kinds of modalities, such as, let's see on my list here, she uses yoga, meditation, qigong, vibrational medicine. And what that does for clients is it's a real good balance between mind and body and spirit. I just think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
She's helped thousands of people tap into their highest potential, experience profound healing, and live more vibrant, fulfilling lives, something that we all want to do, right?
Yep.
She's an international bestselling author, and she is a doctor of philosophy in holistic life coaching. And she's written 2 books. I don't know if she's written more than that, but I'm sure, 4 books. I only have 2 on my list. Okay. Her books are What If There's Nothing Wrong, which sounds very intriguing, and Vibrational Up, with 2 capitalized words there, upgrade, where she translates complex concepts into accessible and engaging content. And then from that, she's the founder of Vibrational Upgrade. So welcome, Dr. Alison. I'm so thrilled that you're here.
Thank you, Royce. I'm really excited to see what we're going to explore in this hour because there's a lot of overlap between what we do, including I had a radio show myself for 2.5 years called Create Your Best Life Ever, and exploring much of what I heard in your intro and what I read about you before in this show and your background. So it's exciting to be with a compadre. Do we have a feminine way of saying compadre? Because that's
Compadrette.
Yeah, let's create it, as is the case a lot of the time. Fellow compadrette.
There we go. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in all of this. You were mentioning that you used to be a teacher. So how did you transfer from teaching to doing this?
Well, this is always my side gig while I was in the classroom as a teacher, doing energy medicine sessions and teaching meditation and yoga. I didn't really get started. It was kind of like innate in me. And I just had to learn how to not engage in any inner debate and just follow the guidance of how to live my life, what choices to make to allow this to flourish and blossom even more. So I was like tromping through the woods as a girl with my older brother and just feeling totally connected to a sense of like, there's all these little elementals and sprites and fairies in the water, and noticing like, is my brother's in front of me, like collapsing trees, jumping on the dead tree limbs and stuff, you know, how boys with their testosterone are. I was like, just feeling totally at one with everything, and felt like there was communication. Then in my teen years, I started to write in a diary, but it wasn't like, this is what I did today. It was, I learned later, once I became a meditator, starting in my early 20s, I was connecting with my higher self. So then I fast forward a bunch of years, and I ended up with learning my first modality of energy medicine, as I then engaged in that as a side gig, like I said, with the classroom teaching. And eventually, some Saturday morning, I was looking at my checkbook, pre-digital banking days, and wasn't thrilled. I had a master's degree at that time, and my first career was in politics. It was in helping the planet and helping get people elected to I was living in California at the time, in San Francisco, helping get elected to state legislature, as well as federal people, not only who would sign yes on environmentally protective legislation, but write it. And so I helped get the first Latina woman elected to the California State Assembly, and she wrote legislation to save the last bit of green space in LA Basin, which I was really psyched about. So then I tromped overseas after the election season in '93 for about 6 months, backpacking and living on a Greek island for a month, which was really fun, and some other stuff. And came back with my master's and was setting myself up to go further into that first career. And after 6 months of looking for jobs, whether inside the system to change from within the system or outside, nothing was happening. No doors were opening. And I asked my guidance, what are you trying to show me? So I then went on to my bachelor's, relying on that in English literature and creative writing. I went into the classroom teaching, and then did the energy medicine side gig, because what I heard was, if, Alison, you want this kind of change, you need to go one consciousness at a time. And this was in '97. So then so that Saturday morning I was referring to, just to give you a little bit more context, fasting forward 2.5 years teaching in local public school, where I also had a after school program to help. This is when ADHD started to get diagnosed. And so a colleague of mine and myself created a club after school where I taught them Qigong, and I taught them meditation and relaxation stuff, and he did too. I wasn't happy on this Saturday morning with my bank books results. And I felt like I knew a better sense of abundance, and it shouldn't be this hard. And I knew a better sense of adventure, and I was not finding myself having adventure in my life. And so I also that week had like the third session in a series of 10, an energy medicine session with a client. It was like my second client or third, maybe, really new at it. And we were both so stoked about her results that we were getting and how she was feeling. So I looked up, I had my hands over her womb. I remember this, I'll never forget it. And I looked up this telling, like, oh my God, how can I get even more robust results for my clients? Like, I literally remember the sentence. So between that and then that next Saturday morning, looking at my lack of abundance and lack of adventure, and also I wasn't willing to accept the projection and expectation I felt from my society that she should be pleased with having this career for the next 3 decades and then retire at this level of life, living this way, getting married, having kids. I felt like it was very caging. And so I looked up basically at the ceiling again and was like, okay, what else is possible here? Like my version of asking that at the time. So a colleague within I think it was like 2 weeks, turned me on to the international school system. So I learned what I had to do. I flew to where I had to fly to. It got the interviews, got a bunch of job offers around the world, and ended up choosing Taiwan because it was where the traditional Chinese medicine and holistic understanding and Taoist philosophy was able to still be practiced. So I wanted to go to the source of understanding subtle energy so I could have even more robust results for my clients. And I ended up, after 10 years, increasing my net cash flow by 60%, paid off any of the student loans I had for my master's, came back having learned a ton because I went to Buddhist monasteries for my Saturday jogs behind the monastery. I talked to the monks. On the weekends, I'd go out to monasteries during the week. I'd get all these traditional treatments. And so I would ask all these questions and put all this stuff together. I'd go to Thailand during my breaks and in Bali, and just was really learning and asking all these questions and piecing it together myself. There was no master whose feet I sat at learning it and just downloading it to me. Yeah. So I pieced together what I knew. And right before I came back here, I got my formal yoga teacher certification in India. and then dropped the classroom teaching career and took this full time and created Vibrational UPgrade System.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. So probably most everybody that's watching this show today knows about energy work, energy healing. But for those people that maybe are not real clear about it, how would you, because you keep referring to it as subtle energy, tell us what you mean by that. What is that really about?
So, as quantum physics has validated the ancient wisdom and understandings about within the past like 15 years, for those who rely on science, subtle energy is what is behind everything we see as in physical matter. So what creates energy is nothing. It's there. And so what we do with our focus of our conscious mind, which if you think about the daily choices you make that create your life, another science-based piece of data is we make our daily choices with only 15% of our conscious mind and 85% of our daily choices that set up and create our lives are from the subconscious and unconscious. I disagree. After tens of thousands of clients around the world doing this for almost, I think it's now over 3 decades. I got to update that bio. Apparently, I don't know where you got that one with only 2 books out of the 4 too. But apparently, I think it's more like 5%. People are not making conscious choices. And it's not like we set out to make unconscious choices. It's just the gearing. My very first major in college before the English Lit was settled upon was psychology. And after 3 semesters of Western psych, I was like, you're not showing me how to be the happiest, most thriving version of myself. No to this, what you're teaching me. And so then from there on in, at age, at that point, 19, I've been looking at the holistic model. So the holistic model understands that we're a mind, body, spirit system. And so there's different, so I approached consciousness from both the Western understanding, because later I taught psychology and created another course, global psychology, I can talk about later. And also from the understanding of the layers of our consciousness from the Buddhist meditative perspective and from the yogic wisdom. Yoga has 8 limbs to it. Only one of them is about the body postures that so many of you are familiar with. 5 of those 8 traditional limbs of yoga are about working with your consciousness. So when you do a yoga pose, all of them are designed around the chakras to help them open. So it is a science. It's been part of my mission when I returned from the 10 years in Asia studying and furthering my understanding of all of this and my power with all of this, is that this is a science. And if in the West, we only understood that it was a science, the subtle energy system, how it all works together is actually a science, we would have so much more thriving and so much less suffering. So there's a lot that so what shows up as the physical plane, which quantum physics has now validated, is based on our expectations that are projected out. And we have the expectations we do about how money behaves with us, how we gain success, how people treat us, how we are loved, how we are not loved, how all of it is based on thoughts we hear, which is only like 5%, but that's called the ego mind from Buddhist meditation, but more so the thoughts we don't hear. So that's where I do all of my work. I also do, after I've done enough clearing on a person of the unconscious and subconscious blocks, which then affects their chakras, because every chakra is a, do you want me to go on more, Royce?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay. This is a lot of teaching. Every chakra is an intersection of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so that means I can access all levels of your consciousness. I can access the physical part of the body and the organs in that area, in the musculature, in the cellular matrix. That also means I can access your spirit. That means I can access your karma. I can access your past lives. Don't worry if you don't believe in the past lives, it's all good. No worries. What I'm getting at, though, is we have 7 in the traditional chakra system of them throughout our body. So the throat chakra is responsible, but it's linked to the thyroid. I have been calling the throat chakra the second power center for these new times, because my radio show I had for 2.5 years, I was about the nature of the 2012, December 21st, 2012 shift. And I was actually in Chichen Itza of the Mayan ruins on that day. I could talk about it later if you want. But we're in very different times now. We are in what's considered humanity's greatest evolutionary leap. And 2 of my 4 books are written about this. And another way of referring to 2012 to 2032, the 20-year window, is humanity's spiritual awakening, which is why we're seeing so many more meditation apps, which is why we're seeing so many more yoga studios, which is why we're seeing cleaner, more organic food offered in the United States and more of an emphasis on that, which is why we're seeing more natural products on Amazon, where people are going after their own health and wellness rather than deferring to the authority figure traditionally of the doctor. So the accessing of your consciousness, I can clear out the unconscious and subconscious traumas, conditioning, imprints from your ancestry and lineage, collective unconsciousness, all sorts of stuff that I'm not going to go ahead and name, that gets you having more fresh, vital life force energy, or chi, or ki, for those of you who know Reiki, or ka, as I say in Egypt, flushed from the back of your house consciousness, which is what I've come to call it, because the sub and the un kind of float back there in our conscious mind prefrontal lobe in the front of our forehead. So I can clear out this lockdown of consciousness or vital life force energy that a block from your lineage, like one of my masterminders last night was clearly displaying. Her family raised her to believe that I have to chase money and I have to constantly pound the pavement. Like it's a race with money, and I'm constantly being beaten from behind to find the money, to get the money, to have the money, to have more than enough. There is not a sense in her lineage of a relaxation around money. So I've been working on clearing the entanglement of various beliefs around that, including that being not only what she was nurtured with, conditioned with, but also what she was natured with, what came down in her DNA. So by clearing that, what I call the back of the house consciousness, she now has more freed up vital life force energy or consciousness at her prefrontal lobe to make new choices. So in meditation and yoga, we're taught that in Western psych, we're taught that there's our 5 physical senses, right, have thresholds on them. Because if we were to pick up actually all of the metaphysical, multidimensional data behind the physical, we go nuts. We couldn't clock it all. So we have these caps on our 5 physical senses and what they can pick up. And part of what happens as you expand your consciousness from meditation, for example, and it's understood from over 2,500 years of experience and observation, is then these thresholds get opened a bit more because you're conscious, you can handle it. You can expand as your consciousness expands, as you are able to handle more metaphysical, multidimensional data, and it won't fry your system and you'll know what to do with it. These thresholds lift a little bit. So your consciousness is expanding. So I'm working with that aspect as I clear out the back of the house consciousness. And then I come in and help with more clearings and activations, and also what I've come to call applied mindfulness coaching, so that they can see and perceive new choices. So she gave me an example of, as she was walking out of Whole Foods, having spent some money that she didn't expect to spend, she was like, yeah, but look at this, is bringing me joy. Money loves joy. Money is just neutral. It's just a neutral energy. It just sits there and gets all these projections onto it, just like you're looking at how I look. If those of you who are watching on video and you're looking at how Royce looks and you have these conclusions, it's natural to judge. It's part of how we chop up metaphysical reality, actually, to make sense of it. It's to help us navigate the physical plane and live. So you're making conclusions about my hair, my glasses, my tone of voice, my jewelry, the stuff behind me. You're having all of these conclusions that you're not even necessarily hearing all of them. Meanwhile, my energy is working on you. So I hope that's a really good start, Royce.
Wow. So you talk about you clear their energy. What is the technique that you use? Tell us about that.
Well, it's a proprietary gig. So when people come into my signature program, Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, I'm kind of eyeing them to see um, if their system and if their life, if they want to become trained in the vibrational upgrade system. And then we chat and see if that's actually organically, naturally the case. And then they get invited into the mastermind, which is exclusively where I teach what I do. So I'm not going to talk about that in a direct answer. But using everything I just talked about and targeting the key areas where you can have the most effect. And my vibrational upgrade practitioners have done the work on themselves through Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, my signature program. They've gotten cleared by me and through a bunch of different curriculum and in live interactions with me. So they're a higher vibration to begin with. And that's one of the requisites of vibrational upgrade. And do you know, like, even as you uplift your heart, it used to be 10,000 others through the collective matrix where we're all interconnected. This might be too much for some people. Now it's 100,000 people if you open your heart and live more from your heart and less from your thoughts. Because of the backdrop we're living in vibrationally. Like the crown chakra has 1,000 petals to it. You guys might know the symbols of the chakras around those the symbol, the Sanskrit symbol for that chakra are lotus petals. And the crown is considered, of the traditional 7, the most has the most petals, and each petal connects to a star. So there's so much more possible for anyone who thinks that life is boring. There is so much more to get to behind the physical, and then understanding that there is so much more support around us. I've been tracking this all the way through since 2011, and it's been beautiful in its statement about how this universe is at its core unconditionally loving. The help we've been given from the cosmos with the various alignments like we have had, and we're living in one now, different cosmic alignments of the planets. I'm not a professional astrologer. I defer, because it's a science too, to professional astrologers to help understand what I'm perceiving energetically, with like factual data, so to speak. There's been so many different planetary alignments or astrological alignments that haven't happened since like when the French Revolution and the American Revolution happened. Like big things, big events in history. We're living in incredible times right now. So yeah, I'm going to stop there. Because we're all meant to be clearing now. And so you asked me about clearing, and what I'm getting at is we're all meant to be elevating, upgrading vibrationally, and living more from our understanding of our consciousness and the effects we have in each of us collectively and individually, creating our reality. And so so creating a better reality is the bottom line. We're moving into what some call the new golden era after 2032. So what I have done is I've had so many people come to me and work with me in the Magic Manifestation and Money Flow signature program from working with LOA, Law of Attraction, and telling me, Dr. Alison, I have never been able to get this to work for me. You are finally the one who's gotten me to not only understand the Law of Attraction, but actually have the energy and the consciousness with which to have it work for them. So I've like kind of reverse engineered, because I was able to play in Taiwan. I didn't read Chinese. I spoke it enough, but I didn't read it. So I was unplugged from like all of the noise around me. And so I, hanging out with my expat friends from South Africa and Canada and England, I was like playing with how our thoughts create our reality. And really testing it. So, because I was also teaching The Secret in my English literature course, when I got to the Romanticists unit, I was able to bring in the movie The Secret. So I remember like I got stared at a lot because of my coloring, blonde hair, blue eyes. And so I remember like okay, I'm going to play with this. I'm going to conclude that this is like being treated like a rock star. And I'm going to go through my day, and anytime anybody invasively stares into my eyes and doesn't see the human, but just is looking at my eyes in this weird, intense way, I'm going to treat it as if I'm a rock star. I had a rocking day that day. The next day I was like, okay, I'm going to let the annoyance permeate. I'm going to go from the annoying conclusion that I'm going to project onto this act of others staring at me. And it was a crap day. So, I mean, that's a very simple example, but why quantum physics was able to say, oh my God, we are affecting reality, is when it did a clinical study on a cat and their expectations of what the cat was going to do and what they thought was a controlled clinical study, they realized affected what the cat did. So they played with that more. Schrodinger's cat. So I wrote about this in my first book. So that was like the breakthrough. And then Einstein was around for that. And he was like, oh my God, I can't handle this. And he kept going down his gut, his theory of everything, because it took quantum physics at least 70 years, the orthodox halls of science, to stop the reverberation of that rocking realization that we cannot observe in a detached way anything and say that that is a controlled study, because we are affecting it just by our expectations of what's going to happen. Never mind how they set it all up. Right. So we are now being asked the core of it. So where I clear, not how, but where I clear in particular, is anywhere you feel like a victim to anything in your life, including and most importantly, your self-talk. So it doesn't matter, and please bear with me, y'all. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your socioeconomic status you were born into. And I get it. I was involved in politics. I get that those are legit things you can point to, the inequities. As a woman who's had to work harder to prove herself and still isn't getting equal pay compared to the men in my position. I mean, how many female gurus have you ever heard of, by the way?
A few.
You know, right, but only like a few, right? Mm-hmm. So, or female spiritual teachers compared to the male spiritual teachers. So what I'm getting at is anywhere you feel like a victim to something outside of you, these times we're in are meant to wind that back so that you see your power to clear that and have it transformed into a belief that actually works for you. Because if we're creating reality anyway, why not create the best reality? And that means where you feel like a victim to money, not enough money, the economy, the interest rates, the food prices, the gas prices. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. I lead retreats over to the UK twice a year for 6.5 weeks at a time. I just came back from one, and that included my beta test to Egypt. And I just came back with that Hathor thing behind me. And so there's a different mentality towards money in England than there is in the United States. And I've done live talks there, doing clearings and activations quite a few times in Glastonbury, England. And I've been able to, and I have had a lot of English clients, I've been able to really see and perceive the differences in, like, it's more of a lockdown over there where it's more culturally accepted that there's going to be problems with money. Whereas here it's, and I'm sure many of you already are aware of this, here it's more like we can go and do and be anything and keep rising, even though there's a whole sector of our society that complains about not having enough money. And so I want you to also consider, like, when you're at a party, how many people around you are complaining about the price of stuff versus how many people are talking about, wow, I just had a client pay an invoice that I didn't expect to be paid ever again. And the money showed up, or wow, I just got a special deal. Like, how many? So the group think is something. So you want to be careful about the group think. Okay, so I got to take a break. I feel like there's tons of questions you could ask me, Royce.
Speaking of a break, we do need to take a little bit of a break, but I do have two burning questions, so I'm going to save them for after the break.
Okay.
So hold that thought. We'll be right back. I'm talking with Dr. Alison J. K.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I think that Dr. Allison is getting a couple of her books to share and show everybody. This is fascinating to me. I just think it's so exciting to hear that the world is shifting. There she is. The world is shifting, and people are finally accepting that energy exists and that we are energetic beings, and all the stuff that you were just talking about is so exciting. It's great. So my burning questions, and welcome back, everybody. And by the way, I always forget to mention, if you are watching this live, you can send us questions and comments. So if you have a burning question, feel free to send it to us and we will attempt to answer it. And okay, here's mine. You were talking about the law of attraction.
Yep.
And years ago, decades ago, I started trying it for myself. And once in a while it would work, most of the time it wouldn't. And some of the inner work that I do and that I teach about has shifted that so that you know, you get rid of the blocks and the beliefs and the fears and the programming and all of that stuff. So you mentioned that you help people get to the point where they're able to manifest. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. So I've been mentioning the different tiers.
Yeah, Chris is telling you how to make sure your book is not backwards when you hold it up.
Okay. So
should have done this in the beginning. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So hold on. What does it look like when it works? So I've been mentioning the different tiers of working with me because I didn't even mention the first level, the Magic Manifestation and Money Flow program. It's called what it is because it's setting people up to start to be able to see their power in its impression upon the metaphysical. So they start to see more synchronicities. They start to see more new possibilities. They start to be open to them and perceive them. So the whole first 6 weeks of that program, I'm opening up their systems to have more opening and receptivity to the new. and to new possibilities coming in. So that's the first step. Receptivity, opening up your receiving capacities, is an ongoing increase. Like, I'm even playing with that myself still, like in the aspect of allowing. So the interaction of when somebody gets guidance to take action, their intuition is telling them to take a nudge, is another way of referring to it for those of you at the different levels across the spectrum of intuitive awareness. And that's one step. You get the nudge, and then another step is you actually acknowledge it as intuition, and the next step then is the choice to follow it or to ignore it. Yeah. And so helping them also start to come out of the dominance of the ego mind, of the daily thoughts that have been conditioned in and that are habitual, the storylines, etc. That's another main step. So they get lighter consistently across the board. That's like the number one result and effect, is they get lighter. They feel lighter. And with that lightness, you also then increasingly, it's relevant to a specific chakra. Receptivity can start to open, you're lighter, and then magnetism can even increase. So then the power increases with which to call. There's tools I help them with that then call out to the universe with the proper energetics. I don't mean you have to be perfect. When I say proper, it's some of the things I just described, because there are proper energetics that are more powerfully calling out to the universe in a way that the universe will hear and bring in a match, as opposed to the miscreation of you creating in that same old loop with that limiting pattern, that same old thing showing up, whether it's with money or love relationships or etc. That triggers you, because your stuff talks about triggering. So, I mean, I'm talking way beyond clearing what triggers you and really focusing on empowering you to become more of the co-creator we each actually are, but recognizing the steps and setting up your consciousness and your energetics to effectively call out to the universe, and then allow yourself to receive instead of reject the new higher level of living. Because loads of people will ask, I'm working with you, Dr. Alison, because I want more money to come in. But they have a slew of beliefs like money's hard to come by, there's only so much money, or if I have more money than others, then I'm hurting others, or I've always been rejected, I've been abandoned, so I don't expect money to help me. So they like, it wants to come in and they'll reject it, right? I'll never forget, it was amazing to me. I had this woman who was working with me, and she was asking for a new situation with work where it was lighter and easier. And I was helping her with that. And she gets this job offer that's like cutting out her commute. It's a pay raise. It's cutting out her commute because it's closer to her house. It's a pay raise. And she would be working with people who felt lighter than the previous office. And she actually asked me, should I take this or not? And I was like, oh my God, this is what you've been asking for. This is what we've been working towards. What do you mean? Right. So it's so amazing to watch people up level from one level of life that they're so habituated to, and allow themselves to have it all be easier and more blessed and more fun and lighter. It's so, look at how juiced I get. My God, I'm so passionate about this. That's where my passion is, though, is to help people. Yeah, I can clear my sleep, and powerfully so. But my juice is about helping people open up to their power and use it, because we have a vibrational backdrop and loads of support to help us shift into this new understanding and creation of our reality to be a new golden era. And I know all of the division in our politics looks like, how can we be going into a golden era? Well, in homeopathics, and in watching when I'm purging somebody's system, when they're working with me, of the old density, I'm going to choose density for a collection of the old storylines, conditioning, karma, past life stuff, traumas, etc. When they get out of that density, when it dissipates and dissolves, and they're so much lighter, it's a phenomenal thing to. It's like people sense that they can get to more. They know there's more available to them, but they don't know how to access it. And watching people actually understand, because they stay with it long enough, they do the work as it's shown to them to do, and they see it does actually work. It is like such a joy, because then that means it's one less person, trying the LOA and giving up and dismissing this energy stuff, because that's old school. That's the old paradigm. Dismiss, and I don't even call it energy work. Another part of my mission is to have it called energy medicine instead of energy work, and professionalize the field. It's been one of my main. This is my first book, and I wrote it. Started as my dissertation for my PhD. I don't have the space to read Chris's and take that in. I'm sorry. The message about like how to not have this show up in reverse. This is called "What If This Not Wrong." Yeah. This started as my PhD dissertation, and it became, where I was led to was phenomenal, about like where in the West we got shut down to our magic. And why I had to go to the East and then come back to understand it. And I ended up, it was written about, I didn't expect to go there. So anyway, what's your other burning question? I hope that answers it. Did it?
Yes, it did. But another question just came to me. When I work with people, I always find that when you get to the core, when you get to the bottom issue with people, that is stopping them in life and not allowing them to manifest and not allowing them to love, it always goes down to deservingness issues. There's always something back there where they decided that, oh, I don't deserve, or I'll be dangerous if I have too much money, or I will hurt that person if I allow them to love me. So there's something about that. Do you address that in your energy work? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But I don't, I'm going to beg to differ here.
Okay.
Because I feel like in the spiritual community, there is an overemphasis on self-love and self-esteem and deservingness. From what I've seen, I don't see it as that issue. So all the time, right? Like that's the core. So if I'm working with a woman and helping her raise her standards for herself with a lot, basically, Dr. Alison, I just published a book and I don't want to be seen on social media. And I need to grow my business, but I don't want to be seen. So there's issues with that are, some of it is this lifetime's growing up, be taught to be seen and not heard as the girl, maybe, which is what I've seen many times. Past life issues when they have used their voice and they've spoken truth to power, they've been shut down in some punishing way or ostracized. So there's that echoing in their unconscious that needs to be cleared. So I don't feel at all like it. So when somebody says like, I don't have the self-esteem to handle all these people looking at me if I let myself be seen out on social media more, I know that it takes courage to allow yourself to have judgments projected at you. So I will go to enhancing the person's courage. And in the sweep I do, with the clearing that I do, the light will dissolve that if it's about deservingness. I feel like I am picking up after a lot of conditioning in the self-help movement, from the self-help movement and from the healing world, where people are made to feel like it's something to do about not being good enough. And it's not. And I feel like I'm dealing with a lot more females coming in with that than males coming in with that. So, I mean, that is there for a reason. I am a fierce mama bear on behalf of the divine feminine rising. That's my mastermind is basically a mystery school for the divine feminine. So it's more about power and eradicating where women have been taught to turn that down. And it's not always about deservingness, even though collectively we've been taught, no, you don't. You do deserve to take care of the house and do these invisible things and not get credit for it. And we might let you become a nurse or a teacher, right? Because those are the first two professions women came out of the house with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's part of the revolution that's happening now, and this is way beyond feminism. So all of us have the divine masculine and divine feminine in us. Masculine is the yang. It's of the yin yang, the white black circle from ancient Taoist philosophy. The white's what can be seen in the light. That's the yang, the masculine. The dark, the black is the yin, the feminine. So the mystery. Some Native American tribes call God not just great spirit, but great mystery. The mystery is in the feminine. The feminine is when we hear our intuition and we're seeding a creative project and we're not bringing it out to the light of day yet. We haven't taken any action yet. If you look at our conditioning in America in particular, we are totally focused on the yang, the masculine, of taking action, be productive, instead of focusing on the being, the inside, and how you're then approaching life and what you're projecting out for your expectations and then what comes back to you. So I'm not talking about feminism. I'm talking about becoming more balanced in our overall collective experience of being in bodies on planet Earth.
Yes. Absolutely. So speaking of society, what is your, I talk about this a lot, that everything that's going on right now politically in the America, the chaotic stuff that's happening, the last week was evidence of a lot of it. How do you, my sense of it is that it's awakening us, that we've got to get to the deepest, darkest, hidden parts of ourselves, which is being reflected to us by what's going on, so that we can evolve and get past that and really own the pure power that we have within. What is your take on all that? And I just found out we only have 10 more minutes. Oh my gosh.
So as I was saying before, and I don't think I completed that thought, homeopathy, when I'm working with a client, a lot of the times I can see, and this is based on homeopathics, the body purging and it getting like, so a fever has to break. Before it breaks, it has to peak.
Yes.
A zit has to bring all of its toxins to the surface before you can effectively pop it without getting like a mark, right? So these are two examples of getting more intense before it dissolves. So in my first book, I'm talking about, and even in my second one and in my third one. Okay, so here's the second one, by the way. This is Vibrational UPgrade, a conspiracy for your bliss. And then my publisher made me add this in, easing humanity's evolutionary transition, because he knows what I do. So the third book, this is also an Audible, Reasonable Dragons. And this says how to activate the field of possibilities where logical magic is the new normal. Logical magic, because there is a logic to the divine wisdom. It doesn't just become irrational if you're not grounded in reason. There's a whole nother order. It's a divine order to logic. This is my most recent one, the fourth one, The Dragon Master Creatrix. Conversations with a female spiritual teacher for these new times. So
Beautiful.
Thank you. I go into that homeopathic in the way in the first book, very specific to the human system. In this one, I talk more about society, the Reasonable Dragons one. So there's a lot of division we're seeing, like I referred to before, and it's before the unity pops through. If you look at the masses, there is more unity. If you look at the politicians, there's more greed for power, because that's popping.
Yeah.
Or it shifts. So we're seeing like the bad, the intensity, the purging of the old, the shadow, like you talked about before. But if you look to the masses, and if you cue your perception to look for the changing, the evolving, rather than for how bad it is. Like that's in part why on my first book's cover, there's a woman on a mountain. I now talk about, instead of going to the mountaintop, take the mountaintop view. I now talk about take the satellite view. Zoom out.
Yeah.
You can see, yeah. Did you have another question?
Yeah. I read somewhere in some bio that somebody sent me. I don't know who it was that sent them to me, but apparently it's not updated. But you mentioned something about a couple of things. There's subtle common signs that someone is not living in alignment with their higher consciousness? What would some subtle signs be?
They get triggered a lot.
Mm.
Their libido is low, separate from hormonal stuff. Their
Yeah.
libido is low. Their energy levels, their vitality is low because that's connected to the libido. This is in great part why we have seen such a focus on mental health, because we're meant to be working with our consciousness. We're meant to be rising. So this is another example of it getting worse, like a fever peaking before it breaks. So the people who aren't already aware of working with their consciousness, the ego mind has gotten louder, so that it's asking us, like, if you look at COVID, I wasn't surprised when COVID happened, because what I was understanding was it was a whole nother slew of people that needed to awaken that hadn't yet in humanity's awakening times.
Yes.
So, yeah, so mental health is just a symptom of, okay, work with your consciousness. I love this basic Buddhist tenet. Their basic tenet is every human mind is neurotic. Now, here are the tools with which to work with your own particular flavor of neuroses.
That's great. So
Yeah.
give us some tools. Give us a couple of tools for people watching this today that you would
Okay.
recommend.
So know that you're not your thoughts. Know that that's only a part of you. That's step one. So step two is do what you can in any moment to focus on what's enduring. A tree, the soil, the sky, the stars, the sun, the rain. I'm not just classifying it as nature. What I'm doing is helping reprogram your consciousness that's used to maybe looking for, what if that's wrong? What if that's wrong? What if that's a problem? Being the problem solver, the fixer, the warrior, because that's the nature of the ego mind. My first signature talk is called The Nature of the Mind. Anybody's mind. Not only is that everybody's mind is neuroses, and here's the tools to work with your own particular flavor of neuroses. It's a basic Buddhist tenet, but there are aspects to the nature of the mind. The mind is trying to protect us. The ego mind has been given to us to help us navigate the physical plane. And so as you step into the new and the unknown, like we are doing collectively, humans on planet Earth, the ego mind goes into protection, like lions and tigers and bears, oh my, in the new and in the unknown, to keep us safe. It is an automatic trigger. You can look at our adrenal cortex and our adrenal system, the fight or flight, as more symptoms of what I'm talking about. Our systems are naturally wired to keep us protected and safe. How loving is that? But because the energies that we're living in are so new, and it is considered humanity's greatest evolutionary leap, the times that we are in now, 2012 to 2032, there's a lot of freak out if people don't understand that framing. So that's number two tool, understand that framing. Number three is take responsibility for your well-being, as all of you are, because you're listening to this. But what I mean by that is, okay, so I actually am creating my reality. Implied in that is I have power. So what if I were to like stop focusing on like that problem and that issue and how this is unfair and how that's a problem and that sucks, and I would just start like using my focus to create what I want to create? The more that you can reason, and this is where I work. All the clearings and activations I do make that easier, but I'm reasoning with your logical mind right now. So you can apply that logic to yourself. You could stop here. You could have like one of those rubber bands some people do for active mindfulness, and you could question your thoughts. Now, the whole practice of meditation is to help you have more spaciousness between your thoughts with which to question your thoughts, with which to observe your thoughts, to become the capital O observer. Now, the work that I do with the clearings and activations actually speeds that process up, right? So everything that I am saying is not going to be natural and easy to you if you've done no work on yourself. So
Right.
please
Right.
understand that. And a lot of people quit right in the beginning because our minds are so geared for instant gratification from our conditioning and the way we live as consumers that if the payoff isn't immediate, we quit. It's
Yeah.
not. We're talking about plant life. You don't yell at a plant to hurry up and grow. This is the same level we're talking about. Our soul, our spirits, our consciousness is organic matter.
Yeah. So you're amazing. How do people reach you? Give us your contact information because we only have about 30 seconds.
Vibrationalupgrade.com. And I have a free Facebook group. Yes, I'm still on Facebook. Vibrationalupgrade.com or Vibrational Upgrade System is the Facebook group. I'm on Instagram, Alison 1L J KAY.com, as well as that's my name, Alison J K on YouTube. I'm on Amazon, and you have to just use one L in the middle initial J and the last name KAY. So vibrationalupgrade.com is my website. If you want to get right to it, Magic Manifestation and Money Flow is the program that does that.
Great. Thank you so much, Alison. This is wonderful. Keep up the good work.
You too, Royce. Thank you for having me on. This is a great channel, Om Times Media. So I'm really happy that you're doing this. And
me too. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll see everybody next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.